Good morning, everybody, and welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Tuesday, the 29th of October. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined for the first time in a wee while, fresh from his holidays. Joshua Barry joins us. How's it going, Joshua?
Yeah, good to be here. Good to be back with you as ever in the morning, Derek. And not much happened while I was away. I watched on with interest and thought the enthusiasm that was there, that would have been there at Ibrox on Thursday night, was sufficiently gone by Sunday afternoon. But we'll get into some of the reasons as to why as we look ahead to tomorrow.
It's funny, I was up for the game on Thursday night, and afterwards I was staying at my mum and dad's, and my dad said, I can't wait to go on Sunday now after what he witnessed on Thursday. And I think many Rangers fans would have felt the same. But it was more same old, unfortunately, on Sunday. Rangers got the job done, but questions remain about this side. And they will be put to the test fully tomorrow when Rangers go up to Pittodrie to take on a resurgent Aberdeen side. We'll look at that in detail. It is press conference day today. We'll hear from the manager and whatever player Rangers put up for the press. We'll hear from the manager around about 2 p.m. This afternoon. So we'll get an idea of who is available, who is out of the game, and his feelings ahead of the game tomorrow night. Joshua, you watched the game back on Sunday. What was your sort of main takeaways? Not a lot to write home about, really. Rangers getting over the line, but that's about it.
Yeah. It was another game. Rangers expect the goals difference for those who care about such things, which is obviously the chances they're creating minus the chances they're conceding is at about 0.88. It's basically, they're kind of just in the green. They're about underlying numbers wise. They're about a goal to the good, and I think that's kind of what's playing out, Derek. Whereby if you watch that game on Sunday as a neutral, you would say that yes, Rangers created the better chances. There was a number of moments where they didn't get a shot off, and I'm thinking of that one with Cerny and Dessers in the second half. In particular, obviously, have the late penalty shout. There's a lot of moments, but it wasn't emphatic or convincing. Their post-shot expected goals, which measures the efficiency of their shooting, came in at 3. So that shows that basically the St Mirren goalkeeper did have a good game. I still think if you take that last week, there's still probably as many questions as answers. Yes, Rangers have responded with 2 wins, and they were good on Thursday night. It's still that age-old pattern of when a team leaves them space and the game almost sets its own tempo. I think Rangers perform much better when an opposition sits in. And I think this is a little bit of a byproduct of Clement's style as well. But when an opponent sits in, Rangers find it more difficult, I think, to play at a high tempo, to create chances consistently, and to draw teams out to play through, which is why those numbers are a little bit lower. So I think the state of play is much the same. So much rides on this game on Wednesday, because on one hand you could potentially go, I think it's 9 points behind Aberdeen before Halloween, which if you'd said that to people at the start of the season,
it's a disaster. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, it is, especially the optics. You can't ignore that, regardless. Even if you're building the best football project in the world for a year down the line, there's only so much you can get away with at a club like Rangers. But on the other hand, if Rangers do manage to go and get a result, and it's their first real big one of the season, then the optics change a lot. I think it's the biggest game Rangers have played domestically outside of an Old Firm in quite a few seasons, without trying to be too hyperbolic about it. So that's what I think of the last week. Much the same. A few more questions like the defence as well. A few players who have playing themselves into form somewhat. I think we're going to talk about Raskin and Cerny today. But those underlying numbers, the fact that Rangers aren't winning by many goals, I think 4 of their wins out of 9 games in the Scottish Premiership this season have been by 1 goal. And those margins, again, under the bonnet as well, are pretty slim in terms of the chances they're creating versus conceding.
Let's get to some of the comments. First of all, Ross McDonald says, here's a mess, Derek. Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at the Boris Johnson look this morning. I tried to sort it out this morning, but it wasn't happening. So I do apologise, Ross, for the untidiness of Lon Barnett this morning. Let's talk about 2 players that have done well in the last couple of games. Vaclav Cerny scored 5 goals in his last 4 games. Joshua has scored the decisive goal on Sunday, was very good on Thursday night as well against FCSB. And we'll also discuss Nico Raskin, who another man of the match display on Sunday. I thought he was really, really good. And now starting to show, I mean, we need to see him consistently perform. This is why he was brought to the club in the first place. He's been in and out of the side, really, but Rangers need him to go on a prolonged run of games now. I really like that partnership, him and Barron in the middle of the park. They two are going to be big for Rangers tomorrow.
Yeah, they are, and I'm sure we'll get onto the defence and Robin Propper's performance and Casemiro, and especially looking ahead to tomorrow. But on the topic of Raskin, I just think for this style of play, when it is quite, Clement wants big spaces because he wants to try and play into space, and off the ball, it's quite often man for man. I just think that at a really basic level, the more players who can either win you physical duels in a 1v1 basis or cover big spaces, the likes of, Raskin or Connor Barron really showed that in midweek in the Europa League. Dujon Sterling, Casemiro, all these individuals, when you put them into the team, I think it looks better, maybe in particular off the ball, because they're able to cover the big spaces that exist. Rangers aren't protecting the centre really compactly. They're defending. Their approach is slightly different. And on the topic of Raskin, it's probably the most momentum he's had in a while. And for me, it's no coincidence that comes when he's playing in the number 6 position as opposed to the number 8. I know we spoke a little bit recently about Diomande and why his performances, haven't been great. I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that he's often running beyond, he's creating space for others. He's maybe not getting the ball as much as he'd like. I think he's averaged about 40 passes a game in the Premiership this season, which isn't a huge number for a midfielder in what should be a heavy possession side. Raskin, when he's playing, I think at the base of midfield, Derek looks more comfortable. He's someone who can bring the ball out of defence. The best way I would sum it up personally watching it is Rangers have had so many deep line midfielders in recent years who have needed to go into the back three to always get the ball. They've needed to always drop in to then face play to get on the ball and then try and do something. Whereas Raskin, when he's playing well, and yes, he can be a bit careless in possession and his passing isn't his finest attribute, but he's a really good ball carrier. And I think what that translates to is he can take the ball in difficult situations in the middle of the pitch, which create space for others, whether that be playing through the press, or there's a couple of instances at the weekend where he was playing 1-2s with Casemiro or Jeff on the other side of the pitch. And it just gives Rangers a little bit more of an option to get through the press. How often do you see when other players play there? And I think Barron's done well, but again, he's not someone who I think, like Raskin, is a really good ball carrier in that situation. So if he wants to get the ball, often he has to drop into that left centre-back slot so he can face play and then go from there. And Raskin gives you that energy off the ball as well, and him and Barron together have looked good. Personally, I don't know what you think about the midfield tomorrow night, but I would expect it's Barron and Raskin at the base of it.
Yeah, I think the big question is who plays in front of them, because Diomande, I know he scored it the weekend, but he's not been in good form, really, has he? There's a comment coming in saying, from Alan, raising the point, feel that Diomande is too weak to deal with Aberdeen. What's your thoughts on who to replace him? We'll get an idea from the manager about players who may be banging on the door of a start. I know that Tom Lawrence missed the weekend. The manager wasn't sure if he would be back in contention for Pataudry. Or do you bring Nadim Barami? Hasn't really played as a 10 yet. Do you move him in field and then sort out the left-hand side, do something over there? But certainly Barron and Raskin, one of the two of the first names in the team sheet, really, those two at the base of the midfield. You perhaps bring Dujon Sterling in there, but the manager doesn't really deviate from that number 10. He likes the number 10, Joshua. I think you'll play with a 10 tomorrow.
Yeah, Dujon Sterling, I believe he's had a issue over the last month, which now should be sorted. I thought he looked more like his old self kind of from the bench. It was only 15, 16 minutes maybe we saw of Dujon Sterling, but created a couple of opportunities. It hasn't really got going this season, but as I say, I believe that issue that has disrupted his last month, he wasn't even in the squad, I believe, for the Kilmarnock game a week last Sunday. It should now be resolved, and hopefully that translates to him getting more consistent minutes, which again he hasn't been able to do this season. The shape is going to be the same. Clement just doesn't change that, and there'll be a lot of criticism around that when things aren't going well. Equally, if a manager does change things all the time. That attracts its own criticism, but we know he's going to go for that shape. I think the question is, how does he get certain profiles in that starting 11? Is he going to stay with Robin Proper, who, I've spoke about before, and I thought he started actually pretty well at Rangers, but over the last couple of weeks, you can't deny that his physicality has been targeted, and he struggled in 2 successive games with that physical battle. Now, who'd Aberdeen play up front? Will that impact Clement's decision making? I think you need to get Casemiro in there, because again, Rangers are in a position where, when a few players are playing well, the form of the team probably isn't good enough to merit keeping those individuals out of the team. And now Tavernier is obviously going to come back in at right back, so it begs the question, especially if John Souttar's fit, where does Casemiro play? And then similarly for the likes of Dujon Sterling, who, is he match fit enough to go and play 90 minutes, or is his impact more likely to come from the bench? You'd expect that it is in kind of midfield positions that Dujon Sterling's minutes arrive. And similarly for Casemiro, I think it's almost more likely at the moment, Derek, that if he's gonna make a position his own this season, it's probably going to be at centre half. We've seen enough to know that Clement isn't going to. He might rotate Tavernier, as we saw for the first time at the weekend. I don't think he's going to drop him. So then, where does Casemiro play minutes? Could potentially most likely be a centre half with the option to move to right back at different points. So it's going to be intriguing to see what Clement does there, because I personally think on the back of that performance at the weekend that he needs to stay in that team.
Yes, Robin Proper would have concerns about him starting at the heart of the defence. Every player can have a bad game, but I would rather have the physicality that Casemiro provides rather than Robin Proper, and whether it's John Souttar who comes back and takes his place at the heart of the defence, or Leon Balogun. Interestingly, Casemiro was speaking after the game on Sunday. It was part of the embargoed press conference. It was released over on our YouTube channel yesterday. You can go and have a watch of it, folks. But he spoke about the advice that James Tavernier gave him as he started at right back at the weekend. He says, before the game to me, he just said, enjoy the game. Quality you can play. He said to me, don't look at it like I'd replace James Tavernier, just play for the team. And he said, just enjoy. I think it helped a lot. Everybody speaks with me, you speak with the other guys. He's a father of the team, so it's good for the young boys to have somebody like this. And he says, I want to start every week, but it's up to the coach and up to me how I train to give the best impression of myself and look day by day how it was going. So just a small snippet of what Naratio Casemiro had to say after the game on Sunday. Joshua, I'm starting him at the heart of the defence. I think Rangers do have to start him. I think he is deserving of a start. And Robin Proper, you watched the game back. You've got a piece on the website yesterday about the conundrum facing the manager on that front. What have you made of Robin Proper so far? Because he has been coming in for a fair bit of stick.
Yeah, he has over the last couple of games, because obviously he was injured when he left the game against Kilmarnock. But if you look at how he got that injury, it was because he lost not quite 50-50, but I think it was Vassell got the better of him in the middle of the pitch. Vassell obviously isn't the quickest player. And over the course, I think he probably won that battle against Proper away at Kilmarnock. And then, memory serves me, Leon Balogun had already been readied to come into the game. Now, whether there was some knock that Proper picked up in the first half or not, I'm not entirely sure. But it is 2 games where he's been taken off around their remark. Where do I sit on it? Probably somewhere in the middle, which maybe is 2 on the fence. But I thought he started actually relatively well. And he has probably a quiet couple of months. The difficulty I think you've got with Proper is he's not a physical defender. He's someone who relies on reading the game. He's played at a good level, and the fact that he's captain 20 to a third place finish in the Eredivisie. We've seen players come from the Eredivisie before and struggle in Scottish football, and he's not an aerially dominant centre half who you'd maybe pick for physical duels. And I guess that's maybe the issue that people are identifying at the moment. I think he's good on the ball. I think he not always, especially when he plays on the left-hand side, you're not always seeing him play through the press and play incredible passes. But I do think he's helped improve a build-up that wasn't very good from Rangers last season to invite a little bit more pressure and try and be a bit more comfortable on the ball. He's happy inviting pressure. But then off it, when Rangers play in this system, and the game that comes to mind last season, Derek, I remember Connor Goldson up against Theo Blair. It was Theo Bair who went to France from Motherwell after that fantastic season. when you're playing in this man-for-man system, I think it can expose defenders so much when they're having a bad game. But it also relies a lot on their physicality. So when the game is settled, he's more comfortable, I think, attacking the space ahead of him, and he is someone who's played in that kind of man-man system because he's grown up in Dutch football where that's pretty common. The difficulty is Scottish football can just be so direct and so physical, and opponents rely so much on winning those duels. And it's been successive games now where he's been targeted. Because actually, if you look at the St Johnstone game before the international break, yes, Rangers didn't concede any goals, although they were pretty fortunate to not concede any. If you watch that game back and especially look at where St Johnstone had a few chances late on, but time and time again, they tried to play the ball in behind proper. And I think actually it was Suter's performance on that day that covered quite a few mistakes. So there's been hints of this coming. I guess the question now is, as an experienced defender, how does he respond to it? Does he need a lot of pace alongside him? Cassim Weirjo and Proper was a centre-back idea that was floated earlier in the season, but John Souttar is probably the first pick in that area at the moment, and he's the first pick on the right-hand side. So I think he started okay. To summarise, the last couple of games have showed those weaknesses that opponents will now try and target consistently. And it's going to be interesting to see, especially as an experienced defender, how he responds to that. Whether it is just a bad couple of games, was he carrying a knock going into that game at the weekend off the back of Kilmarnock? Does he need a faster defender alongside him? But there's no question you can't dress it up. He really, really struggled at the weekend. And when you're going to an away game like Aberdeen, where they've started the season really well, but I'd imagine they still will be pretty direct at the top end of the pitch at points if Proper is playing. How does Clement respond to that? I think he's a big call to make there because he's trusted him so far and he's put him right in. But I'm with you. Even if Cassim Weirjo was playing left centre half, which he's not done so far, he's looked pretty calm in every situation so far.
Yeah.
Again, that's something that comes up when you speak to former coaches of his. He's come through the Ajax academy. He's used to having a lot of the ball and looks a pretty composed player. I'm with you. I think he merits keeping his place in that team.
Yep. Look with the point here. He says, will we ever see Enciala this season? He's not ready for first team football just now. He has been playing for the B team, but by all accounts, trading well, but not ready to play first team football. Whether we see him this season at some point, who knows? Perhaps if Rangers get a favourable Scottish Cup draw in the early rounds, we may see him getting some minutes. But that aside, I don't think we're going to see him anytime soon. Scott with the point says, I would use Cassim Weirjo and Balogun at centre-back tomorrow. Big call for the manager. I've got concerns around the back line. I don't think it's strong enough, robust enough. And it will be put to the test tomorrow. Let's talk about Vaclav Cerny, Joshua, because like you say, you've done a bit of analysis on him as well. You can read that piece, incidentally, folks, on the video below. And he's come in for a bit of form. Took his goals really well on Thursday night, and decent finish on Sunday as well. We now start to see the real Vaclav Cerny.
Yeah, well, people can read it. There's a new little feature we have on the website, Player Focus, which is just pretty short and sharp, 300 words on two players that have performed for better or worse, looking at a couple of key stats and graphics, and hopefully a kind of digestible format for people to look a little bit, get a little bit more insight into and information on performances that have mattered, again, for better or worse at the most recent Rangers game. Cerny, 5 goals and 4. He's actually overperformed his expected goals across the course, despite that miss against Lyon, despite the miss away at Malmo as well when he was through 1-on-1. But if you take the Premiership alone, Derek, I think it's 4 goals from about 1.4 expected goals. So that might slow down, but also I think we've seen so far that when he is in good positions, he has a really, really good finish. He's playing with confidence, which is the first thing to state, and there's a lot to be said for a player who will then take those shots like he did against St Johnstone when he was coming off the back of that Lyon game. It wasn't he, but he took a risk from distance and found the back of the net, and since then I think he's looked a lot more confident. When Cerny is isolated by the touchline and the game's slow and he's in the final third, I think he's pretty ineffective because he's not got the pace and power to go down the line. He's often not got an overlap in fullback, which can make it a bit predictable. If Rangers are able to arrive into the final third at speed and get him into more central locations when he's starting wide but then drifting in field, that's when he looks at his most effective, almost as like he's more of an inverted winger than an out-and-out touchline hugger, and has that really good finish. Right, we've actually seen on both feet, and there's similarities in the goals that he's scoring. And the one that stands out to me, we're going to look at this a little bit more in an analysis video later on that should be live later on the YouTube channel. But again, he's just not isolated by the touchline, because I think even when he's coming onto his left foot from those areas, he can become too predictable because he can't go down the line. When he's in central areas, when he has a few options around him, and he can shoot from those locations, he looks a lot better. And I don't know about you, for me, even just watching the game on Sunday, Rangers still need a ball carrier. They still need pace in the final third. They still need quality in the final thirds. Even though Barami, again, at points when space opens up, he can pick a good pass. When the game gets slow, he's not a one-on-one player. He's not someone who's going to dribble beyond three players to break down a block, so to say. I still think Rangers need a ball carrier in there. Someone like Oscar Cortez was supposed to be this season, but to my eyes, it looks like Cerny is starting. You're starting to see why the club brought him in, and the question is now, can he sustain that goal scoring form, or because he's overperforming his expected goals, will that deviate back to the norm?
Interesting. Yep. Hopefully he's well up for the game tomorrow, and he can find the back of the net. Interestingly, there was a point that came in about players that could be returning. There's a couple of comments saying, well, as a situation with Matondo and Ridvan, we should get an update on those two a little later on. Danilo as well, of course, who's back training. Hadji will be back, Joshua. He'll be back in consideration. Do you see him featuring tomorrow?
Gives you an option in that area of the pitch, which is badly required, especially if Tom Lawrence doesn't make it. And obviously it maybe allows Barami to move in field and play in that number 10 position, which I think everyone would like to see, because he played a great couple of... In another day, he should have had 2 assists for that pass into Raskin. Be surprised if Matondo played at the weekend. That led up to Diamandi's goal, and then similarly for Cerny's chance late on, the Sumerian goalkeeper made a really good save from. I think everyone would like to see him in his favourite position, and maybe Hadji then can play off one of the sides with Shefty getting around him on the left-hand side. It has to be an option, and a positive for Rangers is he should be pretty fit, because he'd obviously come back into the fold prior to that red card. So I don't think he'll start. He obviously scored there the last time he played up at Aberdeen, didn't he? In that 1-1 draw under Van Bronckhorst, if memory serves me correctly. I think it was a Ryan Kent assist. It gives Clement a little bit more of an option in an area of the pitch where he could do with a bit more quality.
Yeah, I want to address this before we touch on Barry Ferguson's comments. Thomas says that Graham Potter linked with the manager's position at Rangers today. Any truth in that, lads? This is Paul Robinson, the former England goalkeeper. Remember him? He's been speaking to Football Insider. So, just take that as you will. And he says, Rangers Football Club is a massive attraction for a manager to take over. Managers don't pick up jobs while teams are doing well. Going into Rangers now with the task to turn them around wouldn't take a lot. There's absolutely no doubt they can attract a big name like Potter, and he would be attracted by such a huge job. I know that for a fact. We're talking about Glasgow Rangers. They're one of the biggest and most well-known teams in world football. The following that they've got, the stadium they've got, and the support they've got. Rangers and Celtic, regardless of the SPFL, are a huge draw all over the world. Absolutely, Rangers can attract a top name. Graham Potter is out of work. Those are the type of managers they want to look at. So it was just Paul Robinson speaking to Football Insider. Yeah. I don't think any truth in Rangers looking to bring in Graham Potter at this moment in time, even though I do rate him. He's a good manager. I'm actually surprised he's not got a job since departing Chelsea.
Favourable payoff, though, I think, which is an important detail in that lack of a new job. So be surprised to see him holding a scarf at Ibrox anytime soon.
Yeah, and he's ably assisted by Billy Reid, who is a top guy, former Hamilton Accies boss as well. So hope to see Billy back in football, and it will be interesting to see where Graham Potter ends up. Let's move on to what Barry Ferguson had to say about the game tomorrow. Speaking on Go Radio, he says, this one on Wednesday night is absolutely massive for Rangers. My mindset going up there is absolute no chance I am letting it go to 9 points or stay at 6 points. That is the attitude you have to have. All credit to Aberdeen. They've had a fantastic start to the season and digging out some really good results. It is going to be tough, there is no doubt. But Rangers need to go and basically shut a few people up and go and show you've got the mentality, character and personality to go to a place like Pittodrie and make sure you come back down the road with 3 points. So that is what Barry Ferguson had to say about the game tomorrow night, Joshua. Where do you sit on it? I think it's must win for Clement. I think it's huge for him. You said it, probably the biggest match in years out with the Old Firm game for Rangers domestically. I would tend to agree. He has to get a result in this game. I think a draw is any good. If he gets a win, that could really act as a springboard this season.
Yeah, and if he doesn't get, if Rangers lose that game, especially because they've then got, who have they got after that? It's Motherwell at the weekend, and then Olympiacos away in Hearts. They need a result to kickstart some sort of momentum. And Clement, we've obviously spoke about the fact, Derek, that the Rangers executive situation is what it is at the moment. They still don't have, I don't think they have real oversight over the managerial position, and it was the fact that they gave a manager too much influence in some regards, that the last summer window without that sporting infrastructure around that partly got them into this situation. And yet again, we're here speaking where there's not a sporting director, a director of football, or a CEO with real football knowledge in the building who has that foresight and jurisdiction over the managers. So that's a huge issue that you can't ignore, and you've got to keep coming back to, and you've got to keep saying, because it has the potential to really harm Rangers at some point. On the other hand, they believe that Clement is the right man. They believe that sticking with him is the right plan at the moment. They believe that they can't get into this cycle or stay in the cycle of sacking managers or losing managers every November, October, which is what has happened now. For the last three years, this is a fourth year. The Rangers have 4 different managers in 4 years, is what I'm trying to say. But with all that said, and with the fact that he is still strongly backed, and that's been the message really for the whole season, you've got to also look at the fans. You've got to look at the reaction after the Kilmarnock game. You've got to look at the fact that for anything to work long term, you need some sort of short term benefit. And I think, Derek, the only way, I wrote this in a piece recently, but the only way you get time at a club like Rangers when you're not winning short term is if people can see this is how Rangers are going to win in the future. Now, I know Clement will say that he had that line of 7 new players in the team at the weekend, which I think starts to lose its significance when you're getting into November. But when people, I think, see that short-term things aren't going to work and they don't think they're going to work long-term, that's when you get the anger, and that's when you get the apathy that can exist at a football club like Rangers, which is so big and passionately followed. On the other hand, that's also a very pessimistic outlook. On the other hand, if they are able to go and get a result, if they are able to play well, and if they are able to go on a little bit of a run up until the next international break, then suddenly what Clement has spoken about rings true, because they're still in touching distance. They maybe have a couple of big results to show for. They were able to get a result away at Malmo, and what might work to Rangers' benefit is Aberdeen are probably going to be aggressive, as we've talked about in the show so far. I think Rangers are a better team when they have space to play into, as opposed to when they have a lot of the football and they have to try and break a team down. But there's no doubt, and especially after that Kilmarnock game, given how the season has started, there is no doubt that Rangers need a big result and a big performance somewhere to try and kickstart their season, to try and build some momentum and give people something to believe in who are watching on. And this game, given the context of Aberdeen potentially going 9 points ahead of Rangers, given the fact that they've been through a summer rebuild and have a new manager and have a lot of new players in their team as well, all the optics surrounding it, this I think make it the biggest domestic game Rangers have played, again, outside of an Old Firm in a long, long time.
Yeah, it has to win the game for me. Just a reminder, folks, press conference taking place this afternoon. We'll get the words from whatever player is put up around about 20 to 2. The manager scheduled to speak to us around 2 p.m. Chris will be in attendance at the training centre, and we'll have all the usual fallout from that. We'll have the press conference reaction video for those of you that are Rangers Review Extra members as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that on the YouTube channel. Also, if you've not subscribed, I know that many of you tune into the show in the morning and haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you'll never miss a video when we go live. Right, that'll do us there. A big thanks to Joshua and to you all for tuning in as ever, and we will speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.